Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is The Truth About Becoming Fluent.
Fluency. It's the holy grail, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
The one thing everyone is chasing. But it's also, I think, probably the single most misunderstood idea in all of language learning.
I think you're right. For most of us, and I'm definitely putting my own hand up here, we have this almost movie-like idea of what fluency is.
Right, like a scene from a film.
Exactly. You imagine this finish line, you've been running this marathon of grammar drills and flashcards for years, and then boom, you cross the tape.
Confetti cannons go off.
The whole thing, and everything just clicks. Suddenly you never struggle for a word again. You can understand every whisper in a noisy cafe.
Yeah.
You've arrived.
Because a lovely image. A very powerful motivator, actually.
Yeah, I'm sensing a but.
But it's a complete fantasy.
A fantasy. Okay, wow. We are jumping right into the deep end with some hard truths today.
Well, it's a necessary one to start with.
So this idea, this destination of perfection, that's the trap we fall into.
It's more than a trap. I'd say it's a setup for failure. Because if you see fluency as a binary switch, you're either fluent or you're not fluent.
Which is what most of us do.
It is. And if you do that, you will spend your entire learning journey feeling like you're not good enough. The reality, when you actually look at the science of it, is so much more interesting.
Okay, so what is the reality?
Fluency isn't a destination. It's a better metaphor would be a tapestry.
A tapestry. Okay, I like that. It sounds richer. But unpack that for me. What does a tapestry of fluency look like in the, messy real world?
Okay, well, think about your own native language for a second.
Yeah.
Your life isn't just one single thing, right? You have different domains.
Sure. I have my work life, my home life with my kids, my social life with friends.
And you talk differently in each of those domains, don't you?
Oh, completely. The way I talk to my boss is not how I talk to my 5-year-old. And that's not how I'd talk to a mechanic if my car broke down.
That is the whole point. In your native language, you have this vast tapestry with threads covering all of those areas. You have the vocabulary for the boardroom and the nursery.
Right, I'm covered.
But as a learner, your tapestry is going to be shaped differently.
Yeah.
You might have an incredibly thick, strong, beautiful thread in one specific area.
But be completely threadbare in another.
Precisely. So you might be able to argue about, say, complex geopolitical issues with incredible confidence because you've spent months reading the news and listening to political podcasts.
Yeah, you know all the jargon, the nuance.
You're totally comfortable in that world. But then someone asks you to tell a simple knock-knock joke to a child.
And I just freeze. Blank screen.
You freeze. Or another classic example. You might be brilliant at flirting at a party. You've learned the social scripts. You get the rhythm of banter. You know how to be funny and charming.
That sounds like a useful skill.
The very useful skill. But then take that same person and drop them into a hospital emergency room. And they have to describe a very specific throbbing pain in their lower left abdomen.
Oh, that's a nightmare scenario. Suddenly all that charm is useless.
It's gone. You're completely helpless. And this is where we beat ourselves up.
Yeah, because you think, I can't even talk to a doctor. I'm not fluent after all this work.
And that is the fallacy. You are fluent. Your fluency just has a particular shape. It's been woven by your personal history, your specific goals, and what you've been exposed to.
This is a huge mindset shift.
It is. To make it really concrete, let's look at what we call the tale of two learners. It's a kind of case study.
I love a good story. Lay it on me.
Okay. First up, we have Anna. Anna is what you'd call an academic learner. She learned Spanish because she wanted to do her master's degree in sociology in Madrid.
So she's a serious student.
The most serious. For 3 years, she's practically lived in the library. She's read Cervantes. She's written these incredibly high-level academic essays. She's listened to hours and hours of university lectures.
Okay, so on paper, Anna is a rock star. Her grammar is probably perfect.
Oh, it's impeccable.
Yeah.
She probably understands the subjunctive mood better than half the people living in Madrid. You put her in a lecture hall to debate sociological theory.
Yeah.
She is absolutely in her element. She just flows.
But
let's take Anna out of the university. Let's drop her into a loud, crowded bar in the Malasaña district at midnight. The music is thumping. People are shouting, using slang, dropping the ends of their words. What happens to Anna?
total system failure.
She just freezes. She panics. Because that thread of her tapestry, the casual, fast-paced social banter thread, it's just not there. It's completely non-existent.
I feel for Anna. I've been Anna.
We've all been Anna. Now let's contrast her with Jamal.
Okay, who's Jamal?
Jamal learned French but in a totally different way. He worked on a construction site in Lyon for 2 years. He never once opened a grammar book.
So he's the opposite. All real world, no theory.
Exactly. He learned by, hauling materials, by taking smoke breaks with the crew, by getting yelled at by his foreman for being too slow.
So Jamal has the street smarts, the slang, the rhythm.
He's got it all. He can tell a joke that makes the whole crew laugh. He can handle a confrontation. He understands all the insults, the cultural inside jokes, the shortcuts of working class French. He's one of the guys.
Okay, but I see where this is going. Ask Jamal to do something formal.
Ask Jamal to write a polite, formal email to a client to apologize for a construction delay.
Complete paralysis. He wouldn't even know where to begin with the greeting. Dear sir would probably come out as, hey, boss.
Something like that. So here's the big question for you, the listener. Who is fluent? Is it Anna or is it Jamal?
The old way of thinking would make me say neither of them because they both have these huge glaring gaps.
Right.
But based on this tapestry idea, you're going to say they both are.
They're both fluent, but in their own unique ways, tailored to their goals and their lives. And that really is our mission for this whole deep dive.
I like you.
We want to help you start focusing on what you can't do and start understanding the science and the psychology of how to build the specific fluency that you actually need for your life.
So we're moving the goalposts away from this impossible idea of perfection and towards something much more realistic. Function.
Exactly. From perfection to function. And to do that, we have to clear out some of the junk that's holding us back.
The myths.
The myths that are living rent-free in every language learner's head.
All right, let's do it. Let's jump into part 1, busting the persistent myths.
Let's get busting.
Okay, myth number 1. And I think this is the one that just murders the most dreams before they even get started. It's the idea that fluency means perfection. The belief that if I still have an accent or if I stumble over a verb conjugation, then I failed. I'm not fluent.
This is, without a doubt, the most damaging belief out there. It creates this state of constant anxiety. We call it linguistic insecurity.
Linguistic insecurity. That's a great term for it.
But let's just use some simple evidence. You're a native English speaker. Do you speak perfect English all the time?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, I trip over my words on this very show all the time. I forget people's names. I have those tip of my tongue moments constantly.
Whatchamacalli moment.
All the time. Can you pass me
The
thing for the TV, the remote?
We all do it. Native speakers make grammar mistakes. We use who when it should be whom. We butcher spelling in text messages. We start a sentence, hate it, and restart it 3 times before we get the actual point out.
And we use fillers,
Constantly. Our brains are buffering. So here's the key. Fluency is not the absence of these mistakes.
It's the ability to communicate through them.
That's the crucial distinction.
Yeah.
It is about recovery. A fluent speaker has such a deep familiarity with the rhythms and patterns of the language that when they stumble, they don't crash.
They just sort of glide over it.
They have a toolkit to fix it on the fly and keep the conversation moving. They'll say, oh, what's that word? Anyway, you get my point. And they just carry on. There's no mental breakdown.
Whereas a learner makes a small mistake and the internal alarm bells start ringing. You idiot, you used the wrong tense. Everyone heard it. They all think you're stupid.
That's the voice of linguistic insecurity.
Yeah.
And it's so counterproductive. This all connects back to the work of Dr. Stephen Krashen, who is a giant in the field of linguistics.
Right, the input hypothesis.
The very same. His research all points to the idea that we acquire language naturally through meaningful interaction. And the key word there is meaningful.
Not perfect.
Never perfect.
Yeah.
If the other person understood what you were trying to say, you succeeded. The goal was connection, not passing a grammar test.
So we need to give ourselves permission to be messy, to be imperfect.
You have to. It's the only way forward.
I can get behind that. Okay, what about myth number 2? This one hits home for me, I have to admit. Children are inherently better.
Yes, the kids are sponges argument.
We hear it all the time. Oh, I'm 40 now. My brain is basically a rock. It's too late for me.
Well, there is a tiny grain of truth in this one, but it gets exaggerated so much that it becomes an excuse not to even try.
Okay, so what's the grain of truth?
The truth is that children do have a biological advantage in one specific area: pronunciation.
The accent.
Yes. A child's auditory processing systems are still developing. They're more plastic. So they can physically hear the subtle differences between sounds, what linguists call phonemes. that an adult brain might just filter out as the same noise.
So they can distinguish between, say, two very similar vowel sounds that I might just hear as one sound.
Correct. And because they can hear it, they can replicate it more easily. That's why they can often achieve a native-like accent more easily than an adult can.
Okay, so they might sound better, but does that mean they actually learn the whole language faster?
No. In fact, in a controlled setting, adults are often much, much faster learners. And that's because we have what I like to call adult superpowers.
Adult superpowers, I want those. Tell me what they are.
Okay, superpower number 1. You have discipline and executive function. A 6-year-old doesn't decide to sit down and study verb tables for 45 minutes because it aligns with their 5-year plan.
True. They learn because they have to in order to get what they want on the playground.
You, as an adult, can choose to focus. You can force yourself to do the boring but necessary work because you can see the long-term payoff.
That's a good point. Superpower number 2.
Rich life experience. You already have a complex map of the world in your head. You know what concepts like democracy or irony or mortgage are. You're not learning the concept from scratch.
I'm just learning a new label for a concept I already understand deeply.
Whereas a child has to learn the word and the complex idea behind it at the very same time, that's way harder.
Okay, and the third superpower.
You have analytical strategies. You understand logic. You can look at a sentence and then deconstruct it. You can say, okay, that's the subject, that's the verb, that's the object. You can see the patterns consciously. A toddler learns through pure brute force exposure.
So we're not starting from scratch. We're actually bringing a huge arsenal of cognitive tools to the table.
A massive arsenal. And if you need proof, just look at the world of hyper-polyglots.
People who speak, 10, 20 languages?
Or more. People like Steve Kaufman or Alexander Argyel. Many of these individuals learned the vast majority of their languages well into their 40s, 50s, even their 60s. They are the living, breathing proof that the so-called critical period for learning isn't a wall. It's just a hurdle you can learn to jump over.
That is incredibly motivating. So age is just a number, literally.
It really is.
Which brings us to the final big myth we need to bust. Myth number 3. The language gene.
My personal favorite, I'm just not wired for this excuse.
I hear it all the time. I took French in high school for 2 years and I was terrible at it, so clearly I just don't have the talent.
It's the go-to explanation for why we quit.
So is there any truth to it? Is there a talent for languages?
Look, there are certainly aptitudes. Some people might have a slightly better short-term memory or a better ear for mimicry, sure.
Yeah.
But the reality, backed by loads of research, is that things like your personality, your motivation, and the amount of exposure you get, they outweigh any supposed raw talent by a massive margin. It's about the grit, not the gift.
So the person who is persistent and keeps showing up will always beat the talented person who gives up.
Every single time, without fail. The most successful language learners aren't the ones with photographic memories. They're the ones who are relentless. They're creative in finding ways to practice. And this is the secret ingredient, really. They are completely unafraid of looking silly.
That's a big one, the ego.
It's huge. If you are willing to make strange new sounds with your mouth in front of strangers, if you're willing to make mistakes and get corrected, you will learn 10 times faster than the supposed genius who is too terrified of imperfection to even open their mouth.
It's all about leaving your ego at the door. And, that actually transitions us perfectly into our next section, because when you really dive into a new language, you're not just memorizing words, you're actually, in a way, changing who you are.
You are.
Let's talk about that. Part 2, identity and the second self.
This is where things get really fascinating because it's the intersection of linguistics and psychology. There's a concept known as linguistic relativity.
Okay, that sounds pretty academic. Break it down for us.
The basic idea is that the language you speak doesn't just describe your reality. It actually shapes how you perceive that reality. It influences how you think.
That sounds almost like science fiction. Can you give me a real-world example of how a language's grammar can actually change your worldview?
Absolutely. Let's take Japanese. In English, our pronoun system is pretty straightforward. We have I and you. It's fairly egalitarian. I can say you to my boss and I can say you to my dog. It's the same word.
So it's simple.
In Japanese, the language forces you in every single conversation to calculate the social hierarchy between you and the other person. There are dozens of different ways to say I or you, or even a simple word like thank you.
Dozens.
Yes, and the one you choose depends entirely on whether the person you're speaking to is older, younger, your boss, your customer, your close friend, a stranger.
Wow. So just the act of speaking the language makes you constantly aware of your social position in a way an English speaker never has to think about.
It forces you to see the intricate web of social relationships. If you don't see it, you literally cannot form a correct sentence. You can't just opt out of the hierarchy.
That's incredible.
Or take a concept like privacy. In Western cultures, and especially in English, privacy is a core positive value. We fight for it.
Of course.
In Russian, there isn't a direct one-to-one equivalent word that carries that same positive meaning of healthy personal space. The cultural framework around sharing, community, and boundaries is just different. So learning the language can actually shift how you conceptualize these fundamental ideas.
It's like putting on a new pair of glasses and the whole world looks different.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And this is what leads to this phenomenon that learners often report, what we call the second self.
The second self. I've heard people say this. They say things like, I feel like a totally different person when I speak Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a real thing? Or is it just, an affectation? Are they just acting?
Oh, it's very real.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense. Imagine you're a naturally quiet, reserved, polite person in English, but then you start learning Italian.
Okay.
To really speak Italian well, to be understood, you can't just say the words quietly. You have to adopt the rhythm, the intonation, the volume, the hand gestures.
You physically have to take up more space in the world.
You do.
Yeah.
And in doing so, you might discover this more outgoing, louder, more expressive part of your personality that you never knew you had.
Or it could go the other way. You could learn a language that values modesty and indirectness, and you might find yourself becoming calmer and a better listener.
Exactly. This expansion of your identity is one of the most exhilarating parts of language learning. You find new rooms inside yourself you didn't even know existed.
But there's a flip side to that, isn't there?
There can be. For some learners, it can be a bit jarring. They can feel a sort of mild identity crisis when they switch back into their native language.
They feel constrained again.
They feel boring or limited by their old self. It's a real emotional journey. You're not just learning a skill, you are literally building a new version of yourself.
Okay, so we've established that fluency is a mindset, it's a tapestry, it's even an identity shift. But we have to get practical now. How do we actually build this tapestry?
Right, the nuts and bolts.
We need to talk about the mechanics. So part 3, input versus output.
This is the absolute engine of language acquisition. And if you, the listener, take only one practical piece of advice away from this deep dive, let it be this: input before output.
So, listening and reading come first.
Primarily listening. It is the cornerstone of everything. The technical term for it is comprehensible input.
Comprehensible input. What does that mean in plain English?
It means you need to be consuming content, listening to things, reading things that is just a little bit above your current level of understanding.
Just a little bit.
Yes. The formula they use is I plus 1.
Mm-hmm.
I is your current level, what you already know. And the plus 1 is the new stuff, the challenge.
So it shouldn't be so easy that I'm bored, but not so difficult that it just sounds like meaningless noise.
That's the sweet spot. It needs to be, as the name suggests, comprehensible enough. You're not trying to understand and define every single word. You're just getting the gist, the overall meaning.
Why is that so important?
Because your brain is a pattern-matching machine. Its greatest talent. If you feed it enough examples of the language in context, enough patterns, it will subconsciously start to figure out the rules on its own. It's like watching a detective show. You might not know who the killer is at the start, but after seeing enough clues, your brain puts it together.
This reminds me of Steve Kaufman, the polyglot we mentioned earlier. He talks a lot about a silent period.
He's a huge proponent of it. When he starts learning a new language, he makes a conscious choice not to try to speak it for months.
For months. Wow. That flies in the face of all that speak from day one advice you see all over social media.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
But his logic is incredibly sound. He spends all that initial time, hundreds of hours, purely absorbing the language, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube, reading transcripts.
So he's building up a giant mental library of the language first.
He's building a massive reservoir of passive vocabulary, and, just as importantly, he's tuning his ear to the unique sounds and rhythms of the language. This takes all the pressure off.
Have you seen that?
By the time he actually does decide to start speaking, the words and the sentence structures are already there in his head, just waiting to be activated.
That sounds so much less stressful than the typical day one language class where the teacher points at you and says, introduce yourself. And you don't even know how to say my name is yet.
That traditional method is a recipe for anxiety. The input first method is a recipe for confidence. But, and this is a very important but, It's not enough to just listen passively while you're doing the dishes and hope for a miracle.
You need to be engaged.
You need active listening strategies.
Okay, let's get into the toolkit.
Right.
What does an active listening strategy look like?
One of the most powerful techniques is called shadowing. Have you ever come across this?
I've heard the term. It's where you repeat what you hear, right?
Yes, but in a very specific way. You listen to a piece of native audio, a podcast, an audiobook, and you repeat what the speaker's saying almost at the same time. You're just a fraction of a second behind them.
So I'm their shadow.
You are their verbal shadow. And the key is you're not trying to analyze the grammar or translate. You are purely focused on mimicking their pronunciation, their speed, their intonation, the rise and fall of their voice.
So it's more of a physical exercise for my mouth than a mental one for my brain.
It's training your mouth muscles to make sounds and combinations that they're not used to. It builds fluency at a physical level.
Interesting. What's another one?
Using interactive podcasts or YouTube videos. Don't just let it wash over you. Pause it every few minutes and force yourself to summarize out loud what you just heard, even in a simple way.
So I'm checking my own comprehension as I go.
You are. And another great one is singing.
Singing? Seriously?
Oh, absolutely. Learning the lyrics to songs is an incredible way to internalize grammar and rhythm without even realizing you're studying. Plus, music activates different parts of our memory.
That's true. It's why I can remember every word to a song I haven't heard since I was a teenager, but I can't remember a paragraph I read 5 minutes ago.
Our brains are wired for it.
Okay, so we load up on comprehensible input. We're listening actively, but eventually we have to talk, right? We can't stay in the silent period forever.
You can't. And that brings us to what I call the speaking paradox.
The great catch-22 of language learning.
You've got it. You need confidence to be willing to speak, but the only way to build that confidence is by speaking.
It's a vicious cycle. I feel like I'm not ready, so I don't practice speaking. And because I don't practice, I never feel ready. How on earth do you break that cycle?
You have to accept one fundamental truth. You will never, ever feel ready.
Never.
Never. If you wait for the day when you feel 100% ready to speak, you will wait forever. The solution is you have to cheat a little bit.
Cheating is allowed. I'm all ears.
You prepare scripts. Now, I don't mean you write out a full speech and read it like a robot. I mean, you create mental scripts for common, predictable situations.
Like ordering a coffee.
Exactly. Or going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know you're going to go. So before you leave the house, rehearse the likely interaction in your head. Hello, I'm looking for milk. Where can I find the bread? Do you accept credit cards? Thank you. Have a good day.
So you're preloading the conversation. You're taking away the element of surprise, which is what causes the panic.
You are reducing the cognitive load. You're not having to think of the grammar, the vocabulary, and the social etiquette all at once in real time. And then, once you've mastered those basic scripts, you evolve them.
How so?
You move from memorized scripts to more flexible conversational speech. Here's a great little technique for that. Instead of just learning the standard, how are you, and the answer, I'm fine, thank you, learn some follow-up questions.
Things to keep the conversation going.
Simple things. Learn how to ask, so what did you do over the weekend? Or have you seen that new movie everyone's talking about? Or did you try that new cafe that just opened?
So you're moving from a robotic exchange to an actual human interaction.
You are inviting a real connection. You're showing curiosity. And that simple shift changes the entire dynamic from, I am practicing my language skills on you, to, I am having a conversation with you. It's a game changer.
That is fantastic advice. It makes you a person, not a textbook. Speaking of which, we should probably talk about the building blocks themselves. Vocabulary and grammar. The dreaded G word.
It doesn't have to be dreaded. Let's start with vocab, because that feels more manageable for most people.
Okay.
The biggest fear is that you have to memorize a whole dictionary. But there is a very comforting principle here called the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle.
I love the 80-20 rule. How does it work for languages?
It's remarkably consistent across almost every language. It turns out that the 2,000 most frequently used words,
Just 2,000.
just the top 2,000, will allow you to understand about 80% of everyday common conversation.
That number feels so much more achievable than, 50,000 words.
It's incredibly achievable. You don't need to know the word for photosynthesis or carburetor to have a meaningful conversation about your day. You just need the core verbs, connectors, and common nouns.
Okay, but there's a difference between recognizing a word and being able to use it.
There is. And that's the distinction between active and passive vocabulary.
Passive is the words I understand when I read them or hear them. Active is the words I can actually pull out of my own brain when I'm trying to speak.
Exactly. And your passive vocabulary will always be bigger than your active one.
Yeah.
That's totally normal, even in your native language. The goal is to keep expanding both, but to be very intentional about moving words from the passive pile to the active one.
And how do we do that?
By using them. But here's a pro-level technique for when you're in a conversation and you hit a wall, you can't find that active word you need. You use a technique called speaking around the word.
Oh, this is like that party game, Taboo.
It's exactly like Taboo. It's a fantastic skill. Let's try it right now. Imagine you're learning English and you and I are talking and you completely forget the word for umbrella. You can't say the word. How do you ask me for one?
Okay, excuse me, can I borrow the thing, the stick you open? It has a roof for when the water
falls from the sky.
First, the thing you use when it rains. Any native speaker on the planet knows exactly what you mean. And what will I say?
You'll say, oh, you mean an umbrella. Here you go. And right there, in a real moment of communication, you just reinforce that word in your memory. You didn't break the conversation and you built a skill. That agility, that ability to describe a concept when you don't know the label is actually a much higher sign of fluency than just having a big vocabulary list.
It's communication resilience. I love that.
It is.
Okay, so what about grammar? Do I have to sit down with those giant charts of verb conjugations that gave me nightmares in high school?
Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not do that.
Yeah.
That is the fastest route to killing your motivation.
So what's the alternative?
We have to reframe what grammar is. Stop thinking of it as a mountain of punitive rules that you have to memorize and obey. Start thinking of it as a toolkit.
A toolkit for building better sentences.
That's all it is. And the best way to learn how to use those tools is through what we call inductive learning.
Okay, what's that?
It means you learn from examples, not from rules. It's how you learned your first language. As a toddler, your parents didn't sit you down and give you a lesson on the past tense.
No, thank goodness.
They just used it. You heard, I walked to the store, you talked to grandma, you played with the dog hundreds and hundreds of times. And eventually, your little pattern matching brain went, aha, that ed sound on the end means it already happened.
So you develop an intuition for the rules rather than memorizing them consciously.
You absorb them naturally. Now, that's not to say there's never a place for explicit rule study.
When is it useful?
It's useful as a problem-solving tool. When you notice, through your own speaking or writing, that you are consistently making the same mistake over and over again. Maybe you always mess up a particular verb tense, then you go to the grammar book, you look up that specific rule to fix that specific problem.
So let the need drive the study, not the other way around.
Let the communication drive the study. Grammar should be your repair kit, not your instruction manual.
That makes so much more sense. It feels so much more organic and less intimidating.
It is.
Okay, we've covered the mechanics. I feel like we need to go a layer deeper now, inside our own heads. Let's talk about part 5, the psychology of learning, specifically memory and anxiety.
The two biggest hurdles.
Absolutely, because nothing kills your confidence faster than forgetting a word you know, and then panicking about it.
It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
But the neuroscience of forgetting is actually really reassuring. There's a neuroscientist, Dr. Junie Willis, who has done some fantastic work on this.
What does she find?
She explains that the neural connections in our brain for a new word don't strengthen when you first put the word in. They strengthen when you struggle to pull it back out.
Wait, so the struggle is the point, that moment where my brain is just grinding its gears, trying to find a word that's actually good for my memory.
It's not just good, it's essential. That effort is what tells your brain, hey, this piece of information is important, build a stronger road to it.
So we need to rebrand forgetting.
That's the perfect way to put it. Every time you forget a word, it is not a failure. It is a rehearsal for a stronger memory. You forget it, you look it up, you use it again, and that pathway in your brain gets a little thicker, a little more permanent.
I like that image of building a path.
It's like walking through a dense forest.
Mm-hmm.
The first time you make a path, it's really hard work, but every time you walk that same path, it gets clearer and easier to travel. Forgetting and remembering is just walking the path.
Okay, so what about memory aids? How can we make things stick a bit better so we have to do less of that painful forgetting?
Well, the gold standard in memory science is spaced repetition.
The flashcard apps, like Anki?
Those are the most famous tools for it, yes. The principle is very simple. The app's algorithm shows you a word right at the moment you're about to forget it. It basically hacks your brain's natural forgetting curve.
So it interrupts the forgetting process.
At the most efficient moment possible. But you can also do it without an app. Making personal connections is huge. Don't just learn the abstract word for dog. Picture your childhood dog. Connect the new sound to a powerful, specific memory or emotion.
And what about storytelling? I've heard that making up silly sentences can help.
The sillier, the better. Our brains are hardwired to pay attention to things that are new, unusual, or surprising. If you create a bizarre mental image with your new vocabulary, like the gigantic purple elephant is dancing salsa on the kitchen table, you are far more likely to remember those words than if you just repeat them in a list.
Use novelty to your advantage.
Always.
Okay, let's talk about the dark side of psychology now. The anxiety, the fear of sounding stupid. For me and for so many people, it's absolutely paralyzing.
It is universal. I promise you, it's not just you. I have worked with high-level diplomats who speak multiple languages, and they still admit to getting a little flutter of anxiety before they have to switch languages in a high-stakes meeting.
So what is that fear, really? What are we afraid of?
We're afraid of losing our identity as competent, intelligent adults. In our native language, we are articulate and witty, and then we switch to a new language, and suddenly we sound like we're 3 years old. We sound clumsy. We feel like we've lost our dignity.
That's it, exactly. So how do we fight back against that feeling?
A few strategies. First, and this is the most powerful, learn to laugh at yourself. Humor is the ultimate antidote to embarrassment. If you mess up a word and say something ridiculous by accident, just laugh about it. It signals to everyone, including yourself, that it's not a big deal.
It shows confidence in a weird way.
It shows huge confidence. Second, reward every single risk you take. Did you work up the courage to ask the cashier how their day was? That is a massive win. Acknowledge it. Treat yourself to something small. Reinforce the brave behavior.
And I guess be kind to yourself. Self-compassion.
You have to be. You would never, ever mock a child who is learning to speak for mispronouncing a word, would you?
Of course not. You'd praise their effort.
So why would you speak to yourself with anything less than that same encouragement and kindness? Be your own best coach, not your worst critic.
That's beautiful advice. Now, what happens when we get stuck? The dreaded plateau. You've been studying for 6 months, making great progress, and then nothing. It feels like you're not getting any better.
Ah, the plateau. Everyone hits them, and the first thing to know is that they're actually a good sign.
How can a plateau be a good sign? It feels terrible.
It's a sign that your brain is consolidating everything you've learned so far. It's taking all that messy new information and organizing it, making it more automatic. But to break out of it and start climbing again, you need to shock the system.
To shake things up?
You have to change your routine. If you've been listening to news podcasts, switch to watching a comedy series. If you've been focused on reading, find a language partner and start speaking. Change the topic, change the medium, change the skill you're practicing.
Or, I've heard that a great way to learn is to teach.
That is one of the most powerful ways to break a plateau. Try to explain a grammar concept you've learned to someone else, even if it's just your cat. The act of formulating the explanation forces you to understand it on a much deeper level.
Okay, let's move out of our heads and into the world. Part 6, Immersion, Culture, and Technology. And we have to start with the biggest immersion myth of all, that you have to sell your house and move to Tokyo to learn Japanese.
Yes, the you must move abroad myth. It's a powerful one, but it's just not true. Immersion is not a geographical location. It is a lifestyle you create.
So how can you create an immersion environment without buying a plane ticket?
It's easier than ever. Start small. Change the language settings on your phone.
Oh, that's a good one. It's terrifying, but good.
It's terrifying for the first 2 days, and then it's normal. You look at that screen 100 times a day. Make that screen work for you. Put sticky notes on objects all over your house. The chair, the table, the mirror. Label your world.
And use your dead time.
Fill every empty moment. Listen to a podcast on your commute. Listen to music in the target language while you're at the gym. Watch a movie on Netflix in the evening. You can surround yourself with the sounds and sights of the language all day long.
There was that famous YouTuber, Moses McCormick, who was a master of this, right?
Yes, Laoshu 505000. He was a true legend in the Polyglot community. Sadly, he passed away. But he was a perfect example. He became conversationally fluent in dozens of languages, and he did it almost entirely from his home in Ohio.
How?
He turned his local environment into his classroom. He would go to the mall or Walmart or the library, and he would just look for people who might speak the language he was learning.
Yeah.
He'd approach a Somali family in the grocery store or a group of Hmong men in the park and just start a conversation.
That takes an incredible amount of courage.
It takes immense courage. But his point was profound. You don't need a plane ticket. You just need curiosity and the guts to connect with the people who are already all around you.
That is so inspiring. But it's not just about the words, is it? You can be speaking perfect grammar and still get things wrong.
That's where cultural fluency comes in. And it is arguably just as important as linguistic fluency. It's the ability to read the room.
What's a classic example of that?
Eye contact. In the United States, making direct, sustained eye contact is generally seen as a sign of honesty, confidence, and warmth.
Right. If you don't, you seem shifty.
But in many parts of Asia, that same level of direct eye contact can be perceived as aggressive, disrespectful, or intrusive, especially with an elder.
So you could be trying to be friendly and actually be offending someone?
Deeply. Or think about sarcasm. The concept of sarcasm exists in most cultures, but how it's used and what the punchlines are vary wildly. If you use dry, British-style sarcastic humor in a culture that places a high value on earnestness and directness, people won't think you're funny. They'll just think you're a jerk.
And I know in languages like Korean and Japanese, politeness levels are baked right into the grammar.
They are. The words you choose, the verb endings you use, they all change depending on the age and status of the person you're speaking to. If you get those wrong, you can cause serious offense, even if your vocabulary is technically perfect. You're saying the right words, but you're sending the absolute wrong social message.
So you have to learn to read the culture, not just the dictionary.
You do.
Okay, what about technology? The apps, the AI tutors, is this our savior or is it a trap?
It's both. It's a massive double-edged sword. On one hand, these tools are incredible. They've democratized learning, but you have to be aware of what I call quiz fluency.
Quiz fluency, I think I know what you mean.
You know the feeling. You've been using your app for an hour. You're getting all the multiple choice questions right. The little owl mascot does a happy dance for you. You get a perfect score. You feel like a language genius.
And then you meet a native speaker.
And you try to have a real conversation, and you can't form a single sentence. You freeze. That's quiz fluency. You got really good at playing the game on the app, but you didn't get good at using the language. You trained your finger to tap the right box, not your brain to formulate a spontaneous thought.
So what's the fix? Don't use apps?
No, use them. They're fantastic for drilling vocabulary and basic grammar, but you have to know what they're for. Use them as a supplement, a warm-up. But prioritize real human interaction, or at least consumption of real authentic content for your actual communication practice. Don't let the gamification replace the conversation.
Got it. Okay, we're coming into the home stretch. I want to look at the masters of the craft. Part 7, the Polyglot Playbook. We've studied these people who speak dozens of languages. What are their secrets?
Let's look at a few of the greats. First, Tim Donner. He became famous as a teenager for speaking something like 20 languages.
At 16, how on earth did he do that?
His secret wasn't some special school. It was his city. He grew up in New York. He treated the incredibly diverse boroughs of New York as his living, breathing textbook.
He found the immersion at home?
He would seek out communities. He'd go to the Russian bathhouses, talk to the taxi drivers from Pakistan, the shop owners from Israel. He didn't just study books, he studied people and engaged with their communities.
So curiosity and human connection again. Who else?
Lydia Makova. She has a fascinating approach. She learns a new language every 2 years, and she does it through these intense, self-designed language weeks.
What does that entail?
She creates total sensory immersion for herself. For a week, everything she touches, sees, hears, and even eats is related to that language and culture. It's a super concentrated dose of immersion.
And Richard Simcott, he's a legend.
Richard is one of the most respected polyglots in the world, speaks over 40 languages fluently. And when you ask him what his secret is, he never says, I have a gift or I have a talent.
What does he say?
He credits curiosity, not talent. He stresses taking tiny, consistent baby steps every single week. He makes it sound achievable for anyone.
I love that humility. And finally, let's talk about Ollie Richards.
Ollie has this brilliant, simple concept that I think is so powerful. He calls it never 0 days.
Never zero.
It means you make a promise to yourself to touch the language every single day. No exceptions. It doesn't have to be for hours. It can be for 10 minutes. It can be listening to one song while you brush your teeth. But the number is never 0.
Because consistency beats cramming.
Consistency always beats intensity in the long run. It's far better to do 15 minutes every single day for a year than it is to do a heroic 5-hour study session once a week and then burn out and quit.
That is so simple and so doable. We can all find 10 minutes. So if we do all these things, if we follow the playbook, how do we know when we're getting fluent What are the signs?
It's funny because it's actually a very quiet arrival. There's no big fanfare. The confetti cannon you wanted doesn't go off.
I really wanted that confetti cannon.
I know, I'm sorry to disappoint. Instead, it's these subtle little moments that start to happen.
Like what?
You'll be in the shower one morning thinking about your day, and you'll suddenly realize that your internal monologue for the last 5 minutes has been in your target language.
Without you even trying.
Without any conscious effort. Or you'll wake up from a dream and realize the people in the dream were speaking the language and you understood them perfectly.
Wow.
Or, my personal favorite, you're watching a movie or listening to a podcast and you hear a joke and you laugh. And then a second later, you realize you laughed instantly. You didn't have to translate it in your head first. The gap between hearing the sound and understanding the meaning has just disappeared.
That sounds like a magical moment.
It is the moment. It's when the language stops being this external code that you are actively deciphering, and it starts being an integrated part of your own mind.
So let's wrap all this up into a final practical roadmap for everyone listening right now. What are the key steps?
Okay, let's boil it down to 4 things. First, anchor your why. Write down physically why you are learning this language. Is it for love? For travel? For your career? Put it somewhere you can see it and revisit it every week to stay motivated.
Okay, step 1, know your why.
Step 2, mix input and output. Listen and read a lot 80% of the time, but make sure you are also speaking and writing a little bit 20% of the time, even if it's just talking to yourself in the car.
Step 3,
gamify it. Make it fun. Keep a streak of your never zero days. Challenge a friend. Find a way to turn the process from a chore into a game you want to play.
and the final step.
Reflect. Once a month, take 5 minutes to look back at where you were a month ago. Acknowledge your progress. You'll be amazed at how far you've come. It's easy to forget your own progress when you're in the middle of it.
That's a fantastic, simple roadmap. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. It really changes the entire goal from something scary and impossible to something human and achievable.
That's the whole point. If I can leave everyone with just one final thought, it would be this. Stop thinking of fluency as a destination you arrive at. Think of it as a lifelong relationship that you cultivate.
It evolves.
It evolves, just like any relationship. There is no single moment of arrival. There are only endless new opportunities for discovery and connection.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
So trust your curiosity. Get messy. Make mistakes. The voice you eventually build in this new language will be completely unique. It won't be like a native speaker's voice. It will be yours. And that's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. And on that note, to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What are your language goals? What was your most recent victory, big or small? Did you finally order a coffee without panicking? Did you understand a song lyric for the first time? Let us know in the comments. And of course, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us keep bringing you these deep dives.
Keep speaking, keep stumbling forward, and keep learning.
Thanks for joining us in the lab, everyone. We'll see you next time.